Hello, my name is Jennifer Laffick, and I'm the Curatorial Assistant at the Norton Museum of Art. As a part of Norton From Home, I'm bringing you a 2-episode series spotlighting my favorite 18th century French works of art from the Norton's collection. On today's second episode, I will be comparing 2 examples of 18th century French portraiture by the artists Nicolas de Largillierre and Jean-Baptise Grueze. And these 2 portraits bookend the 1700s. Largillierre and Grueze were of 2 separate generations of French artists, and their portraits underscore the polarities of the genre of portraiture within the 18th century. The first one I'm highlighting is by Nicolas de Largillierre, and it was completed in 1727 when the artist was 71 years old. And while the identity of the sitter is unknown, we can definitely find clues that Largillierre has given us to determine how the sitter wanted to be portrayed. Largillierre really relied on a formula of sorts for his portraits. The first was situating the sitter in a hybrid of outdoor and indoor spaces, which we can see here with the column and the foliage. You don't really know where she is. It's a very ambiguous background. The next is the female sitters, at least, would be enveloped in swaths of drapery. They would be theatrically posed to further dramatize the scene as well. And this portrait kind of fits that bill. It checks all of those boxes and is really indicative of Largilliere's oeuvre and, more broadly, the first few decades of the 18th century in portraiture. Firstly, we can see that through the gown itself, and this abundance of fabric can perhaps illuminate the abundance of wealth that the sitter has, and she wants us to know that she is wealthy. And by including these folds of drapery within her dress, Largillierre really accentuates that. Also are the details within her dress which indicate great wealth, the 2 flowers at her décolletage, and the jewel-encrusted brooch which clasps the gown together, as well as the gold-embroidered bust of the gown. Her appearance, her makeup and hair also indicate that she is of aristocratic status. And contrary to popular opinion, women in the 18th century typically did not wear wigs, and they would actually powder their hair themselves with either cornstarch, or if you were very wealthy, you would use finely milled flour, and that could be scented with fragrance. Our sitter here could certainly afford that, and she would probably use the finely milled flour. And she's also added 2 sprigs of laurel leaves within her hair. Laurel leaves have been a symbol within art history for artistic and literary pursuits. So by including these laurel leaves, she wants us to know that she is a learned and cultured woman. I think this is a great representation of an aristocratic woman, and she's the pinnacle of high society, and Largillierre really cements her status in paint. Largillierre was extremely prolific in his lifetime, which spanned from 1656 to 1746, 90 years. And in that 90 years, he produced over 1,500 portraits. He was certainly known to the court of Versailles, King Louis XIV and XV, but he preferred private commissions from Paris's wealthy middle class. And he once told a friend that if he could choose, he would always choose a private commission, as they were much less troublesome and payment was always quicker than a public or aristocratic figure. Drastically different in its depiction of its sitter is Jean-Baptise Grueze's circa 1790 painting, Portrait of a Young Woman. Unlike Largillierre, who was known to live lavishly like his clients, Grueze was destitute towards the end of his life and relied on portrait commissions to sustain his livelihood as an artist. Grueze was desperate to become a history painter who painted large canvases of mythological and historical scenes, but he was lauded for his morally precise genre scenes and psychologically acute tête d'expressions, which are facial studies done by artists to capture the emotion of a sitter. Certainly psychologically intense is the Norton's Portrait of a Young Woman. And unlike Largilliere's sitter, this woman has decided to be depicted in the guise of a mythological character. We know who it is based on the leopard skin costume, and it's Callisto, who was an attendant of the goddess Diana. Portrait patrons within the 18th century were very keen on being depicted as these mythological characters to accentuate desirable qualities of the characters within themselves. In this case, perhaps Callisto's strength and endurance through her trials. It was created in circa 1790 amid the escalating turbulence of the French Revolution. And I think Grueze really captures the fatigue and unrest felt by much of France's citizens. In this portrait, we can see her eyes are really sunken into her face, her lips are downturned to a frown, her hair is limped, and the muslin of her gown is tattered. This is obviously dramatically different from the aristocratic excess that Largillierre depicted in his portrait. Though resentful toward the aristocratic excess, Grueze, like Largillierre, relied on Paris's wealthy middle class for portrait commissions for his livelihood. While Largillierre played up his clients' wealth through meticulous detail of their clothes and made-up appearance, Grueze instead focused on his sitters' emotions, examining their psyche through paint. I hope you will come visit these two portraits of the 18th century once the Norton reopens. They're located on the 3rd floor of the Norton's galleries. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you continue to take care and stay well.